Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, I will show you in this third part the animation speed and length. Go over here, click on animation at the header of the 3D viewport editor. This is gonna be opening up the animation workspace as shown here. Just go over here, click on output properties in order to show the frame rate, frame start, because I'm gonna be showing you some important settings for your animation to start doing animation. You can notice over here we have frame rate. You can set animation to run at 24 frames like this. Click on it. You can set it to run at 24 frames per second, which would be suitable for PAL format. Go to the properties editor, output button, dimensions tab, frame rate as shown here. Also, we can notice in the timeline editor, which is over here, the frame range settings are start 1 and end 250 as shown here. You can set it also if you want. For example, 140 is gonna be just going to constrain your time in between the frame 1 and the frame 140. Just you should know that running at the rate of 24 frames per second will give an animation. Just an animation time of approximately 10 seconds. If you think about it, 10 seconds is quite a long time for a single action to take place in video clip. Also in the timeline editor, make note of the lighter grade area beginning at frame 1 editing and ending at frame 250, just in this area over here. Changing the start frame and end frame values in the header panel will move the end positions of the lighter grade area. Note that the vertical blue line at frame 1, this is the timeline cursor. So let's rename and let's tell you about some important elements over here in this dope sheet. Also, you can also hover mouse cursor over here, and just you want click left mouse button and drag up to see the timeline editor. It's over here. Just you can drag it up a little bit in order to see the dope sheet and the timeline editor. So we have here the cursor, which is the blue line, and the cursor is set to frame 0 as shown here. This frame 1, not frame 0. It's gonna be begin from the time 0. Also, here at the top of the timeline editor, we have timeline editor header, which containing different buttons and different sliders if you want to change your cursor and to move it. We have other different functions, and you can click also to play your animation also if you want, and also have a shortcut to play it, and if you want to jump to keyframe, and this button for if you want to jump to another keyframe upward and going forward. And also shown here, this is for auto keying, automatic keyframe insertion, if you want to insert your keyframe when trying to move your cursor over here over any frame you want, if you want to constrain your animation. And here is in this header we can see also the animation length, which is 250 frames as shown here. So let me show you how to add your object you want to animate. In this case, to make the process relatively simple and suitable for demonstration, the actor is the default cube in our case, for example. So just I want to add a monkey over there, as you can see. And we have our mesh that we want to animate. Also, I want to do some settings for his motion to be made move in straight line along the x-axis as shown here. So just we have the cursor in the timeline editor is set to 0 as shown here. So just zoom out just a tiny bit. In this case, I want to move it along the x-axis as shown here. Select your object or your mesh you want to animate along the x-axis. Grab it. So just I want to show you something very interesting. Just in the first position, this mesh is positioned at the area at the center of all the axes as shown here. So just I want to drag this cursor, hold and drag. So in this case you want, for example, this is the first position. I want to insert a keyframe for first position. If you want to animate it, move it like this. So in first position, just click on this circle over here. Click on it in order to be highlighted in the blue color. So just in this case, you can move your cursor over here, hold and drag using the left mouse button and drag over this area here at the keyframe 8, at the frame 8 as shown here. Just so let's grab it and let's move it on the x-axis and click on left mouse button. This is gonna be showing 4 dots in the dope sheet as shown here. That means you have inserted keyframe for first position. So just if you want also, you can rotate it. So hit R, rotate along the z-axis. For example, just like this. Control Z. I want to make the second frame, for example, at 20 over there. So just if you want to rotate it along the z-axis as shown here and click on left mouse button, it's gonna be making the second and inserting the second frame over here, as you can see. And so on. You can make different animations, just rotating, transforming, translating your cube or your object you want to animate. So let's move on to show you how to insert keyframes. Keyframes are inserted in the animation at specific frames. For example, with the monkey over here in our scene object located at for example, so click on this arrow in order to show the location of your Susanna over x-axis and over y-axis, and it's located at this at 1.89 at a location on the x-axis as shown here. And that means your object is translated by 20 frames in the timeline editor as shown here, and we have also some important data in the dope sheet. So if you want to insert a keyframe, you should place the mouse cursor in the 3D viewport editor as shown here and press the I key. To insert keyframe, it's gonna be showing up this menu in order to insert a keyframe of different source. In the selection list that displays, select click, lock, rot, scale. That means location, rotation, scale, lock, rot, scale. Search for it. We have a bunch and a different location, rotation, scale. Click on it. So just which covers moving, rotating and changing the size of the object that we have here in the 3D viewport editor. You can control all other factors. You will see orange dots appear at the frame 25. And here in our case we have orange points appear in appear at the frame 20, just 20, and that depending on what you want to make in which location and any frame you want. In the dope sheet editor and orange diamonds in the timeline editor. Here is diamonds and here is dots. You should distinguish between them. As you can see, at this point, only one set of keyframes as shown here in the dope sheet. Set of keyframes have been inserted and the cube remains stationary at this point as shown here. This is the location where your object is located. It's located on the x-axis and we have all these coordinates over there. It's gonna be changing location when trying to drag your cursor over this first frame, which is the frame 8. You can see that we have just applied a rotation for your object as shown here. The frame 0, which we begin off, and just dragging over this part over here, and you can see it's gonna be changing the color of different sliders for location, rotation and scale. Now scale, we haven't do anything for scale. We haven't applied a scale on our mesh, also just to apply the rotation, and you can see here for these dots and for the frame 20 that this corresponds to the location, corresponds to the same location, but just we have applied a rotation along the z-axis by 19.5 degrees as shown here. And nothing changed in the location because we haven't changed location, just we changed the position for rotation around the z-axis as shown here. So let's move to the dope sheet to show you some important things you should do to understand basically the animation step by step. If you click left mouse button on the dope sheet editor cursor, hold and drag the mouse from a keyframe along the timeline to a timeline, the cube remains stationary. Clicking left mouse button and dragging the blue line in the editor is called scrubbing the animation. Like this. Which is actually manually playing the animation. You can play animation by clicking the play button as shown here. Also, you can play animation, so just make it a tiny bit like this, and you can also play the animation just by clicking the play button as shown here. It's gonna be playing your animation and going to move the cursor in the timeline editor and in the dope sheet. In the dope sheet editor as shown here, we have all these dots, keyframes, which is orange dots, are located on a colored strip. We have different strips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over here, strips. Colored strip representing an animation channel. Each colored strip representing animation channel. Click on the object transforms to see the full display if you want. So just drag it down just a little bit and drag this up. We have, when clicking on object transforms, we can see the full display. Also over here we have channel. Animation channel. The animation channels give a visual reference to the keyframes. So let's continue. I will show you something interesting in order to understand how all these frames are working and what that means when we try to translate and rotate and scale our mesh along different axes as shown here. So in 3D viewport editor, let's grab and move the Susan monkey. So grab it along the x-axis just like this. Click on the left mouse button as shown here. I have enabled screencast keys in order to show you some important shortcuts. You don't need to ask a lot of questions about what I'm clicking. So just you can notice that we have these yellow lines over here. With all the lines are going to appear just in Y location and Z location and X Yola rotation, Y Yola rotation, and Z, and also scaling. What that means. So let me explain. With the mouse cursor in 3D view editor, press the I key and select location, rotation, and scale. Hit I key, location, rotation, and scale, as shown here. So we see another set of orange diamonds in the timeline. So just drag it a tiny bit like this. To accurately locate and scale the cube with the mouse cursor in 3D view editor, press the N key. And hover your mouse cursor over 3D viewport editor. It's gonna be showing this menu, this side menu, by clicking N and enter values in the object properties panel. For example, it's gonna be locating and going to show it's gonna be showing new dots over here. New dots over here when trying to translate it along the x-axis as shown here. For example, let's apply some rotation if you want. This is gonna be removing this yellow line as shown here. When applying rotation on the y-axis, it's gonna be showing this removing this line. Means that we have a rotation along the x and y axis. If you want to move it along the y-axis, just tiny bit like this, move it on the z-axis. That means that we have a motion and change the location along the y and z axis. And that's it for this third part. I will continue explaining to you something very interesting for animation, step by step. Thanks for watching.